Okay guys, we're gonna attempt to make a matcha. I've been trying every single day. I was inspired by Sarah Corrali, I think you say her name. She always does cinnamon and honey in her matcha, so I'm gonna see if that makes it better. This is the matcha from Sprouts that my friend Giselle recommended, and then I just have this milk. I kind of feel like it's the milk that's the problem, but we're gonna mix it up and see what we can get. Okay, then I think we're gonna add in the milk. About a good amount. It looks promising, and then we'll add some ice. Okay. All right, taste test. It's nice. I do like it. I've been making them, and then Grant's always saying they're not strong enough. So I don't know if I should, because like, I think it says 1/4 teaspoon to 1/4 cup. Basically, it's like the measurement for this matcha. So I don't know if I should double it for Grant or what, but I kind of like that it's like a little more subtle. I don't know. But I don't know, if you guys are making your own matchas at home, what have you found that works? Because I kind of like that. And the honey I'm using is like this sage honey that I bought at when we went to the bookstore. We were walking around that like Old Town Temecula, and they had a little shop and they had honey. It was like locally sourced, like a good size normal jar of honey for like $12, which is really inexpensive. I feel like usually it's hiked up, like it'll be like oh my god, Grant loves this honey. And it's from Colorado, or at least they have a store in Colorado, and we went when we were there, and it's like a $50 bottle, and it's like a longer bottle, but it's not, I don't know even know if it's double what I bought, you know. It is really good, but yeah. Hey guys, and this is my breakfast. I just had like a little yogurt bowl. Strawberries are so yum right now, super in season. And then I just had like a everything bagel with butter. And then you can see my stack of books. Okay, I've been struggling hardcore with Brandon Sanderson. I'm doing audiobook, and then I'm gonna start this maybe. I'm deciding. So my goal was to finish Words of Radiance this month. I wanted to finish it by book club, but I have been like a snail reading it, and it's not like I'm a slow reader, but I think I'll just kind of give my summation, I guess, of my experience with the Stormlight Archives. Basically, I read Way of Kings last year, and it took me so long. I think it took me months to read this book because it's 1,000 pages, and in my opinion, one of the characters was just so annoying to me. If you've read it, Dalinar was just really, I was so annoyed. And it wasn't that it's not good, it's just like so slowly paced, and the way that Brandon Sanderson writes this series, at least, is he'll do like a chapter and it'll be in someone's point of view, and then the next one will be in somebody else's point of view, each of them kind of leaving on like a cliffhanger of sorts, because you of course want to read the point of view you're already in, and then when it changes you're like, oh, okay, what was that person doing before we left off? And he's so detailed. He makes like wonderful, well-rounded characters. Everything has a point for why he's like mentioning it, and they're very like humanized, I feel like, characters, which is why you get this wonderful like found family almost of sorts, and you just kind of wait for kind of like the Game of Thrones, I think, effect, where like people are meeting each other, so then like the worlds are colliding, which is really exciting. However, I think it's just because it is like written in such a slow pace, because each of the books are over 1,000 pages. it's just been really difficult for me to read. And I don't have a hard time when it's in little bites, but if I'm trying to like fly through it, and I'm like kind of really preventing myself from wanting to do an audiobook, so I was like, I like reading it hard copy, but it's taken me so long because of it, of course. And so yeah, this is kind of where we're at. I honestly think it's gonna be like I can only read one per year, or my new goal is basically to read a new section of the book, like a chapter or two a day, and then eventually I will be done with it, because it's the only way I can think of like really doing it. And I want to read like other books, and I feel like even though I've been like, you can only read this book and you can do the audiobook for I Fell in Love with Hope, it's been tough. Then yes, I fell in love with Hope. So I fell in love with Hope. I don't have a clip of it, but it is the book basically. Grant has wrapped up 12 books, or 11 books. He had wrapped up some books for me that were from my TBR that he chose out of, I like chose a bunch, like more than 12, and then he chose from those for each month. And this month for March is I Fell in Love with Hope. February was a book that I had done previously. It's taken me a while to get to these books. The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. And so that one wasn't my favorite, just because Lucy Foley is one of my authors that I just like, I don't think I'm her, like we don't have the same taste. Her thrillers have not been a hit for me, really. That one was better, but it still was not thrilling to me. And then I Fell in Love with Hope is another book that I think I've seen like some hype about, I think on like Reels. Basically, I don't have TikTok, but I have Instagram. And I feel like everything that is on TikTok eventually comes to Instagram. And I was just like interested. I didn't really know much about it. I don't remember if I saw a YouTuber actually read it or not, but it's so dark. Oh my gosh, I'm like more than 50% through, I think 60 or something. And I just am trying to figure out what kind of reader would want necessarily to read this, because it is like very vivid and like self-mutiny, and it's very sad, for sure. I don't know that I feel like very connected to the characters either, because I feel like there's such a like aura of like pity that the author is kind of coming across that way, instead of like hopeful, or I guess like strength or resilience in some ways. I feel like it's what was maybe intended. And so I don't know, something, you know how some people don't like to read about like very cringy like characters, like female main characters or whatever, because they're like, I can't, it just like it just like pulls you out basically. I feel like that's what's pulling me out of this one, is just like it has such a tone of that. And maybe it's because of some of the characters that are in it and like the perspective of their head, since they are like the main characters, kind of reflecting on you reading it, so it kind of comes off as like pity. And I don't know, it really like turns me off the book, because I'm just like, why see it that way? Of course it's a sad story. It's about this group, and they all have kind of met in the hospital at some point, some in and out of the hospital, but they're all kind of dealing with their own diagnoses, I guess would be the best word. Yeah. And a lot of them, if not all of them, have kind of a decreased lifespan because of that. And so you're kind of following them along, and there are like some cool scenes that very much like remind me of like, I don't want to say like high school, but just like that like when you read like Perks of Being a Wallflower, like that infinity kind of like, this is the best day ever, and you're with your people, and life's kind of what you make it. There's like those bright moments in it so far, but I don't know, it's just like, I'm not sure. I'm almost like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to recommend this because I'm having a hard time and I don't know what kind of audience would willingly want to like read some of the details of this, especially if you went through it. I feel like it would be so triggering. I don't know if it comes off more as like educational or like you can understand them. I think it can, but it's so, I don't know, it's like a really risky move from the author just because it's like so sensitive to go there, and I don't know if it necessarily adds to it or not. We did our makeup, so I feel a little bit better, and going on a run in a bit with Grant. I still have my moccasins on until we go, but I figure we'll do a little bit more reading and I'll give you a little update. Hey guys, okay, so I was able to read some more of Words of Radiance. I got to 176 and my goal is to get to page 200 by tomorrow, and we'll slowly keep trucking along. But actually got kind of interesting. Brandon Sanderson does this thing in these novels where he will like kind of do like almost like a interlude kind of break, and it won't be like the main point of views that you're usually in. It's kind of in these random point of views that you don't really know those people or those characters well. And I actually read some of Oathbringer before I started this one because I had ordered both of the books after I finished Way of Kings, and I was reading Oathbringer and I was like, you know, it's just like isn't really making sense. I think I only read a little bit, but I think we went into the point of the view of one of those characters from that book, which is actually really interesting. So maybe there is hope that I'll cooking up my pace because I'm so slow at reading them. But I'm such a mood reader. And I saw that they're doing an adaptation for Regretting You for Colleen Hoover in the near future, and I've never read this one. And Colleen Hoover, I know people either love or hate her, but I liked a lot of her books. I feel like she does a really good job of like immersing you in whatever world pretty quickly. She's easy to read and pretty fast paced. I usually read her books in 2 to 3 days. So I figure I would start this one. Just because I'm feeling like a romance. Go. You want to say hi? But yeah, so we'll see. I have no idea if I'm going to like this or not, but I will give updates as we go. Okay guys, I'm going to give you an update on the book a little bit later, but we're on our way to goat yoga. Yesterday I didn't vlog at all because Miss Leia was very sick, but she's doing better. We got little Grant here. We're gonna go do goat yoga, and Grant's never even done yoga before, so that's super exciting. And I'll share some clips if I can.
You're like, I'm not so forgiving.
You having fun already?
He's my brother.
We're going to take some deep breaths.
No.
Spine. And again, just bringing your focus to this beautiful day. So stretch those arms out nice and strong. Press into the right leg.
Like you're from the bottom.
You too tall?
Take a big breath in. And a big breath out.
Oh no. Oh my god. Get away.
You wanted a POV one?
Who are you?
You got one? Did you want another or?
Sure.
And just take a big
When you have a chance.
and a big breath out. Tyson, you can't stay out here in the parking Where are you gonna go? Hands come back down.
You may see them wrestling in the background. Goat yoga is all over. It was super fun. Definitely their first time running it, I feel like. But just because I've done it before with baby goats in Colorado, and it was like more of it was like on a farm in like a field. So there's a lot of space for the goats to do their business and stuff. And here, trying to do it on the parking lot on yoga mats was different, especially super enclosed, because I think just trying to get everybody that signed up for the class to be able to participate. And I think a lot of people had a lot of fun, and the kids had a lot of fun. So, and Grant was over the moon about it. So it was a good time. I did get changed because we were cleaning up the mats and stuff afterwards. And yeah, and I just want to talk to you guys about Regretting You. I'm about like 100 pages in, and this is getting wild. Like, I haven't read a Colleen Hoover book in like over a year, I think, because I think the last one I read was like Heartbones, which I did really like. And I was just feeling like something fast paced. You're definitely gonna see them wrestling in the corner. But it's written in 2 points of view. So it's Morgan, she's the mom, and then you get to see her daughter's point of view as well, Clara. And I didn't read the back, so I had no idea what was gonna happen, but basically they have like a huge turn of events, and you're gonna kind of get to see the perspectives on how it all goes. But things are like unfolding, like the drama is high, which makes for like an entertaining book. So I'm just curious what else is gonna happen, because some of the things that I already it's been dramatic, but I have been able to predict everything so far. And I'm kind of curious what's left to happen, because we still have a good chunk of the book left. I mean, I have suspicions, but so far it's like a lot of fun. And then I did my review and everything for I Fell in Love with Hope. It just like wasn't for me, guys. I think it's like a work in progress for the author, for sure. There's like beautiful writing and like quotes for sure, but it just, how it was handling like mental health and like the like coping mechanisms with like mental health, like harmful and not, are like very visually talked about. And some of the decisions are like very much like, okay, teenagers and like young adults would do these things, and they're more like done with their heart, not like with their brains, obviously, and it causes for some like really dangerous situations. And I don't know, it just was like, I can't figure out who the authors try to speak to when they wrote this book, other than just like creating a story. I just feel like it's super triggering. It does have beautiful language, but like I didn't feel super connected to any of the characters because of like the way they're written, and like such a, I think I said before, like just this like very pity on everyone, and like the outlook, the perspective of the narrators is like unfortunate as well. And so it just is kind of like, I gave it a 1 out of 5 stars. I didn't like it, and I feel so bad. It's the second book in the like series of like books that Grant wrapped like a TBR. These are all my books, okay, so I have chosen the books technically that he picked from, but they have been oh for 2 right now. So we'll see what happens for April's pick of the book. I'll unwrap it on a video for sure, but I'm just like, I feel bad. But yeah, if you see like hype about this book or whatever on TikTok or Instagram, I would just say, I mean, like, admire the quotes, but maybe the book is not worth the like psychological heartache that it might elicit. So yeah. What else are we doing today? We're just like hanging out. I might make another matcha since I've been on that kick, and I might go out to lunch, and then we're going with Grant's family to watch like a movie at their house, The Last Showgirl, so I'll let you know how that is. I heard Pamela Anderson is actually really good in it, so I'm curious. And yeah, it's the weekend, so very much happy to have like some sun and some time with my favorite people. So yeah, and I'll give you some more updates about this. I'm gonna read some more right now. Hey guys, so we ended up doing our kind of a spontaneous little Barnes & Noble trip. So Bridget and I were supposed to go on Friday, but since Leia got sick, we ended up we were able to go today basically. And Bridget checked with Barnes & Noble, and they had Sunrise on the Reaping in stock, the new Hunger Games book, and I've heard like such great things about this. Everyone's saying it is their favorite in the series. I do need to do the audiobook for the last Hunger Games book. I've seen the movie, but I haven't read it yet. And since it's in like President Snow's like backstory and everything, I was like, okay, we'll do an audiobook for that. And then Bridget, coincidentally, also had read First Time Caller. Last time we went together, it was sold out, so she ended up going a different day when it restocked, and she gave it 5 stars, I believe. So I wanted to get it, and my other best friend Magali has been reading it as well. I don't know if she finished it yet, but it was on the buy one get one 50% off, so I had to get another one, right? And I was looking all over, figuring out what I wanted to get, and I have been hearing non-stop good things about this series, Legendborn series. And the 3rd book in the series, I don't know if it's the last one, has just come out, and people have been like going crazy about it, but it's a YA fantasy. And so super excited to read that. And they have the sprayed edges special edition, Barnes & Noble. And yeah, so that ended up being perfect. And then we went to dinner with my sister and her boyfriend, and then me and Bridget both got these little guys, the Calico Cuties mystery minis, and dun, 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 I got the little, this is Henry, and just look at his cute little outfit with the teapot. So I'm gonna put it together and then you guys can see, you can display him. Look at it. Oh my god, isn't he so cute? Hey guys, okay, so I'm about 195 pages into Regretting You, so I'm more than halfway at this point, and it has been like a roller coaster, I feel like, for sure. It's kind of so much is going on, so it's super entertaining, but it is almost like, what like is happening? Like, it's so much going on, kind of like if you've seen like a telenovela or anything like that. Like, there's just a lot of just like, whoa, like, okay, kind of like plot twisty kind of relations that are happening that are getting unfolded, and they're not necessarily revealed on the back cover when you read what this book is about, so I don't want to spoil anything. But I feel like that's more where my brain has been. There hasn't been like really beautiful quotes or things to like comment on in that regard. It's more like, what would I do if I was in this situation? Because it's almost like very not unbelievable, but it's just like, whoa, it could happen, but it's probably unlikely. And that's kind of what you're seeing, like, what are the characters gonna do? What would I do in the situation? All that. And like I mentioned, it's in Clara and Morgan's perspective, so the mom, Morgan, and then Clara, her daughter. And we just finished up with a chapter, basically she's having her own like love story in high school kind of unfolding right now, and it's interesting because Colleen Hoover, like, she always creates characters that are very like morally gray, and I think that's what kind of is alluring about her books, because they feel more realistic, because people mess up. They also make you mad and sad and all of that. They are like real people, I guess. And in a way. But it's just interesting to read it now, just because I haven't read one of her books in a while, and just comparing it to other authors and everything that I've read. This is very much more like dropped into the book, what's happening, learning the characters, not really sure what they're gonna do because they are gray, so they could make some mistakes for sure. And yeah, it's just like interesting, I think, Colleen's books, because I don't know if you guys have read It Ends With Us, but that was the first book I read from Colleen Hoover. And it was interesting because I totally fell into the trap of like, you're in Lily's perspective and you're falling in love with Ryle and you just have no idea what's to come. And then if you haven't read the book or the movie, it is about domestic violence, and that kind of gets brought up almost like a plot twist in the book, which is the point, because you want the reader to feel like they're kind of experiencing what it can look like when you get into relations like this, because a lot of the time, right, there's like this whole argument about why don't you just leave. And I think it's really interesting because I read that before everything went down in my relationship that didn't work out, and I did end up leaving that relationship and ended up realizing that it was really not great for me because of like the emotional abuse that I experienced. So it's so crazy to like read that prior, be like, oh my gosh, Lily, why didn't you notice? But then like feeling like you are Lily because you're like, actually, I didn't notice. So you kind of have that empathy in itself. So it's very interesting. I had other friends read these books and just to see like their thoughts and stuff, obviously, after they read them. And I feel like my friends are so much better at like looking at red flags and like, I feel like just not giving people the benefit of the doubt almost. And so it's just interesting because I feel like I am the opposite of that, right? I want everyone to have a second chance, or like understand that people are human and they make mistakes, and you want to be able to forgive them if they mess up and things like that. And I feel like a lot of life too is like learning that piece as well, like when is enough, I guess. And so I feel like a lot of times in Colleen's books, I feel like I can empathize because they show kind of some sort of growth one way or another. And it's very interesting to see that piece. And so I feel like it's alluding to what in like this book, what kind of growth is going to happen from one of our characters, but our other character, I'm not really sure unless it's their combined like relationship as like mother and daughter. But I'm wondering if it's like as obvious as it is or if it's not, so TBD. But yeah, those are like all my thoughts, and I feel like I explained it a little bit chaotically. Now, being more grown, do I feel the same ways that I felt about some of these other books and like characters? Because with All Your Perfects, it was interesting because I ended up being a really emotional read, but then I was like, oh my gosh, like it kind of ends up showing that relationships take a lot of work, and you either want to like be there with each other through the storms or you don't. And obviously that novel is more based on like infertility and like that whole journey and things like that. And I feel like that is a huge life lesson and like in things, but I think at the time for me it almost felt like if you keep enduring and you have two people that are willing to fight for the relationship, then it can definitely bloom into something beautiful, I guess, is kind of what I was taking away from it, which is not necessarily the same thing. And I feel like my realization now is that like a relationship, if it's meant to be, like for more than anything, right? Anything in this life that is meant for you will not pass you by. Like, it will come to you. I really do believe that. Everything happens for a reason, growth-wise, whatever. Like, if you're meant to do something, it's going to be an option if you're, like, still heading those ways. Obviously, if you have barriers and things deterring you from that, it might take some time if you ever get there or not. But, for me, it was just, like, I think I understand now that it shouldn't be so hard, like a relationship, if that makes sense. If you're trying to make two puzzle pieces fit and they're not fitting, there's probably a reason for it. Even if you're not ready to, like, feel it or, like, address it or, like, admit it to yourself. And that's kind of where I was. And so it's just so different when I think when you're in a healthy relationship and you're with people that, like, in any regards, right? Like friendships, your family, your found family, a partnership, like, there is a level of, like camaraderie or things should feel like they're in place. And I feel like when it's not that case, then I feel like that's when you have to, like, kind of reevaluate things. Because, like, why are you here? And, you know, I feel like a hard lesson for me, really, this is just, like, a little bit of chit chat, but it's true. Like, for me, it was a hard lesson to understand that some people are in your life for your whole life, and then some people are just there for seasons of your life. And not for good or bad, even. Sometimes it's just, like, you grow apart, there's other things happening, you don't have common interests anymore, or what have you. But I don't know, for me, it was always like, no, like, if something happens to the relationship, it's because I didn't put enough effort towards it. And that was kind of always my thought process for it. But I feel like that's totally not true at this point in time. It's like two people have to work towards a relationship, and sometimes it's not a hard feeling. It's just like, I enjoyed the time that we were friends or close or whatever it is, and I honor that. But, you know, we're in different places. I still root for you, and hopefully you feel the same or what have you. But yeah, so, like, letting go of things that don't serve you anymore, basically. I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but I definitely feel like it's hard for me to let things go like that, where it's just like, it seems so, like, monumental to be like, actually, okay, I'm okay with, like, moving on. I don't know. I don't know what that says about me, but those are true feelings. Okay, let's try and finish this book. Okay, guys, we have a quote. So, basically, another guy that's instrumental to the story is Clara's teacher, and basically was her dad's best friend, and they had a conversation, and there's some stuff going on in his life, basically. But the quote is basically talking about adults and the differences between adults and, like, teenagers. She says, "It disappoints me a little. Sometimes I feel like being an adult is so much easier than being a teenager, because you should have it all figured out as an adult. You're more emotionally mature, so you can handle crisis better. But seeing Jonah right now as he tries to pretend he's not distracted, and watching my mother try to navigate her life as if her will still exists, is all the proof I need that grown-ups might not have their stuff figured out any more than we do. They just wear more convincing masks." That disappoints me. But true. I feel like there's a certain point when you're, like, a youngin' and you realize as you're getting older, I mean, she's realizing before she's really there, but the people are just human beings and everyone's just kind of, like, trying their best. So yeah, relatable. I feel like life's just a journey. I kind of hope they do the project on his grandpa. I might actually bawl if they end up doing that. Oh my god. That would be actually, like, wonderful. Okay. I think we should do a little spoiler recap, I guess. Okay, so we have, basically when the book starts, there's 4 main characters. There's Morgan, which we have her perspective, and then we have her sister Jenny. We have Morgan's boyfriend Chris, and then his best friend Jonah. And Morgan and Chris are dating, and then Jonah and Jenny, Morgan's sister, are dating when you kind of start reading the book. And Morgan is starting to see that she might have feelings for her boyfriend's best friend because they have like a connection. But then she finds out she's pregnant. Insert Clara, basically. So then she ends up getting married to Chris, and they start this life together, but it's the only boyfriend she's ever had, and she just kind of had to stick with it. Jonah broke up with Jenny soon, I think like the next day, that Morgan found out she was pregnant, and then she ends up not being like dating Jonah at all. Jonah ends up disappearing for 17 years. He comes back for his father's funeral. Jenny's the only one that goes, I believe, to the funeral, and they end up sleeping together. They end up in bed together. What would you say that? And then Jenny's pregnant and she has the baby. So then Jonah's going to marry her, so he's the fiance. Then it gets crazy, right? Thank you. Elijah, their baby, does not look like Jonah. He looks like Chris, Morgan's husband. There's a tragedy. Jenny and Chris end up dying essentially in a car accident because they were actually together. But Jenny was supposed to be at her first day of work. She was not supposed to be, from her alibi, I guess. And so there's kind of this like, why were they together in this accident? Because she should have been at work. She works at the hospital. So when they call about Chris in the accident, and they're like, wait, I need to talk to my sister, like, you know, she's freaking out. And they're like, she didn't come into work today. She was with Chris, but nobody's saying so. Also, if this is like me, mind you, the way this all unfolds, like, wouldn't you be like, has anybody seen anything weird about, like, with Chris and my sister? Because they both work at the hospital. And it seems like all the nurses are, like, kind of avoiding them. Jonah shows up at the hospital because he got a call about Jenny. He didn't get a call about Chris. And they both kind of add things up, and they were together. They find breadcrumbs, basically, of them being at this hotel together around that day, I think. And there's lingerie and like her duffel bag, like her sister's duffel bag, and obviously they were having an affair. And it just goes like crazy from there. There's like, so they're kind of in this situation where they're just like, what happened? How long was this going on? Why did Jenny allude to Elijah being Jonah's son when it doesn't look like it? We don't have proof yet at this point when I'm in the book that it's not Elijah's son, but the guy doesn't look anything like him. So yeah, which makes Clara and Elijah half siblings. So you're just like, what the heck is going on, guys? Which makes Clara and Elijah half siblings, if that's the case, right? So then Morgan's like trying to make sure her daughter doesn't find out about this affair because she doesn't want to kind of ruin the reputation of her sister. and her husband, right? So like Clara's aunt Jenny and her dad, because that'd be devastating. But there's like this real reality happening, and then you get to see like Jonah freak out because he's like, this isn't even my kid. But then like he's a teacher, he loves kids, he wouldn't just like abandon the kid. And there's like all of that, and then there's just like this love that's happening with like Clara and this guy at school that was like, supposedly his dad was like not the best apple, I guess. And yeah, so we're just kind of saying that you get to see her being a teenager and being like wild and crazy, and her boyfriend Miller actually being like, obviously really likes her, like a little boy obsessed kind of vibes. But yeah, it's just kind of like craziness. And they have to do a film project together because Miller really wants to be a director in the future, and Clara wants to be an actress, so we'll get to see what that happens. But anyways, they're talking about his grandpa, and his grandpa is battling, I think, cancer, and he doesn't have a huge life expectancy, basically. And they have to do a film project, and they don't have that much time, and they already have footage of his grandpa of like his whole life, so I feel like they should do it on that. And I would cry because his grandpa is like one of the only wholesome characters in this book, girl. So I don't know. So I feel like this book is like, it's very entertaining, and it does, like, you do get the frustration of like the high school characters, but you also have like this piece where like Morgan never really got to grow up. She didn't get to like have her own identity. She wants to find that, but she's kind of still in that like headspace, basically, of like, I'm still growing and learning and I don't know everything, and that's what we're like dealing with. And also, most recently, Jonah and Morgan kissed for the first time. But now Clara thinks that they've been having an affair this whole time, since before the death of her aunt and her dad. So plot twist, now it looks like they're the bad guys, when it's not the case. So Colleen is having a field day right now, I think, with all of this. Can't make this up. You're the first and only person in this world I've ever loved without some reasoning or justification behind it. I just love you because I can't help it. And it feels good to love you. I'm confident that I'll never spend a single second of my life regretting you. So for a lot of this book, Colleen Hoover has Morgan kind of contemplating like who she is, what her path is, what she wants to do now that she has like the opportunity and time. And she's talking about like, I've always felt it was too late. Quote, it's not though, I'm a work in progress, maybe I always will be. I'm not sure I'll ever feel like a final draft, and I'm not sure that I want to. The search for myself is becoming my favorite part of my new journey. They did these like birthday boards, and what she wrote for this birthday was to find her passion. Quote, maybe I don't have just one passion, maybe I have several, and I've just never made myself and my wants a priority. The idea that I have the rest of my life to figure myself out is exciting. There are so many things I want to try, whether they work out or not. I think finding my passion is my passion. This book kind of is wrapping up nicely. I don't know how realistic or not it really is, but I feel like there's like some good talking points, and this book is definitely for somebody that wants to see like a mother-daughter connection, and really, I guess, demonstrates how messy it can look and that time between a mom and a daughter and the frustrations that comes with it. That it was really cool to see basically Morgan's parenting really come into fruition with her daughter's strength and maturity at the end. And I feel like that's what Colleen Hoover was really trying to pinpoint at for this book, and it turned out nicely. Clara Grant. Oh my gosh. We don't even have a song called I actually have tears in my eyes. I finished. Honestly, I feel like this book was worth reading just for the epilogue, which is crazy because it's not like your usual epilogue, which is usually filled with marriage and kids. It's not like that. And it made me cry. Oh my gosh. Gramps, that's what they call Miller's grandpa, and he's just my favorite. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I truly feel like this book was like entertaining, a little like, do I feel like this is realistic? Do I feel like this is how people really act? I'm not sure, but I feel like more than anything, it's like you get the feel of like being back in high school. You get the real frustrating, angsty feelings that you feel when you're like a teenage girl mad at her mom, and like the discourse back and forth, I'm sure what it comes with, like, of being a parent in that situation, in an impossible situation. But like, yeah, I feel like you get that. But honestly, for the epilogue, I feel like this is worth reading because that was so sweet. That was definitely my favorite part of the book. I would say 3 stars. Like, solid 3 stars. Have to read the epilogue. And yeah, I feel like this vlog has been very lengthy, so I'll end it with that. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.